Here I have some fabric with a purple heart stitched on top of it. If you look closely, you can see that there's a zigzag stitch all the way around. This is what we call raw edge applique, or it also can be known as a fusible web applique, because we're applying a fusible adhesive to the back of the fabric and then we iron it onto this fabric. And then we go around and stitch all the way around it to do two different things. One, to give it a little decorative edge like you see right there with a small zigzag stitch, and also just to make sure that it's permanently adhered to the fabric. Even though the fusible web is pretty reliable, we want to make sure that the edges don't lift up. In order to complete this technique, we need some paperback fusible web. I buy it on the bolt at Joann Fabrics when it's on sale. This is what it comes in. It comes in a bolt like this. You can buy it by the yard. You don't have to buy the entire bolt like I did. But you can see here the brand is Pellon. This is the one that I recommend. It's what I find to be the best. And then this is actually called Wonder Under. And then different brand names and different stores will have it under different names. Just look for something that has a paper back. It's almost like a parchment paper feeling on the back of it. And then on the other side you feel like a really thin adhesive that is going to melt, and that's what sticks to fabric after you hit it with a hot iron. So this raw edge or fusible applique technique is really simple. Here are the few things that you're going to need. I have a pair of scissors, something to write with, the two pieces of fabric, the one that's going to be the bottom and then the one that you want to make the applique of. This one's actually going to go on top of that one. Then I have the piece of the paperback fusible web that we talked about earlier, and then I have a small iron here. Let's get started. So the first thing you need to do is come up with your design or trace something that you already have. You might have a heart image or a circle, whatever it may be, or you can just write on the actual paperback fusible web yourself. Make sure that you're writing on the actual paper side, like the parchment paper feeling side, because the other side, remember I said, has the adhesive. You want to write on the paper side. Now, the one thing you need to keep in mind is that whatever you trace or draw on here is going to be fused onto your fabric in the reverse, like the mirror image of it. So if I were to cut out the letter E in block letter, I'll give you an example like this. If I do this like this on my paperback fusible web, what's going to happen when this gets fused down is that it's actually going to display this way, and that's not what I want. So in order for me to get the correct side of the letter E, I'd have to write it on here backwards. Okay? That's simple enough. Now what I'm actually going to do here, and when you're starting off as a beginner, you want to use images that doesn't matter whether it's the right or the wrong side. So I'm just going to draw a circle for you, roughly. I'm trying to do this with one hand. Okay, like that. This is going to be my applique piece. I've drawn my circle on the paperback side. Now the next thing I need to do is cut it out of here. You can see I've cut it out, and I don't cut exactly on the line just yet. I just want to give it a little bit of a space so that I make sure that I'm getting my entire image. Now the next thing you need to do is grab the fabric that you want your applique to be, which is this one we said. So I want to put a big circle of this fabric on this fabric. Okay, so here's my applique fabric, and what you're going to do with this, remember it's fusible, so you're going to adhere it to the wrong side of the fabric. Okay, so I'm turning my fabric over, and then with the tray side and the paper side facing you, you're going to put it on the fabric and then fuse it in place. This actual fusible web requires that I hit it with a hot dry iron, so you want to make sure that you read the manufacturer's instructions, okay? But some require steam, some don't. This one just requires a hot iron, and don't worry, the iron's not on. I'm not wrecking my cutting mat. I've fused my circle down onto my fabric. As you can see, it's completely fused into place. And now I'm going to take my little pair of scissors and I'm going to cut it out now on the traced line. So here's my circle that's been cut out. Next thing you have to do is now you remove the paperback. What I like to do is just take the edge of it like this and roll it back until it kind of separates. Just like that. And peel it back all the way. Now what I'm left with is basically an iron-on image. Here I have the pretty side of my fabric, which is correct, and on the back I have that fusible web. Now you just place your applique piece wherever it is on the piece of fabric that you want it. You put it right there, and then you hit it again with the hot dry iron. Here you see my piece has been fused. You see it doesn't come apart. And then even though the fusible web is pretty permanent there, if it's going to be on a piece of clothing that you're going to be washing and drying a lot, you want to go ahead, like I showed you earlier, like you see here on this heart, and just go with a really small zigzag stitch all the way around. If you have any other decorative stitches on your machine, feel free to use them here. That would really add a nice decorative edge. And if you don't, maybe you just have a straight stitch machine, you can still go ahead and straight stitch along the edge. What you will get is after a lot of washing and drying, it'll fray a little bit on the edges, but that's a different look if you want to add a little bit more texture to your applique piece. And that's it. We're all done. That's all there is to doing the fusible web and the raw edge applique.